Katie Fehnel, welcome to what we're calling the Nick Strong podcast, episode 2. It's a pleasure to have you here. It's a pleasure to meet you and learn a little bit more about you.
Well, thank you for having me. This is my first podcast.
Well, it's first time for everything. This is Jen's second podcast, though. Jen, welcome as the host of the show. Welcome to your own show.
Thanks.
Katie, if you could just explain to the audience who you are and what you do, I think that would be a great foundation to the listener.
Sure. So I'm Katie Fehnel. I'm a neurosurgeon and specifically a pediatric neurosurgeon, and I work at Boston Children's Hospital. And in the world of neurosurgery, people are all very heavily subspecialized. And so my specific area of focus is taking care of kids with brain and spinal cord tumors. So I'm specifically like a oncologic neurosurgeon for kids.
And I think this is the huge open-ended question, and I think it's something that is on a lot of minds of maybe parents listening or people exploring the topic is, when faced with a situation where they do have to interact with you and work with you and in the team, do you have like first steps kind of way to approach this? Like, how does one wrap their heads around having to deal with this? And what kind of support either do you or the hospital or the team provides to somebody who has to go through maybe what Jen and family went through with their situation?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of, there's so many different things to answer in that question. But for me personally, when I first meet a family that's new to a diagnosis, occasionally it's the first time they're hearing it is from me, but often they've maybe had somebody else give them at least some inkling of what's going on. But in general, there's a lot of confusion and a lot of angst, and people are generally pretty overwhelmed at the forefront of the diagnosis. Often it's just the approach is kind of like taking a step back and just making sure that sort of the information has been delivered in a way that is understandable and that people have some kind of concept of what's going on. And then kind of looking at it from like what's going on right now, like what does this mean for right now, and potentially what does this mean for the coming days, weeks? Because at the beginning of finding out your child has a tumor, that's like a pretty big thing. Um, uh, and her family went through with Nick was sort of like the extreme of really everything that someone can experience with that diagnosis. So the supports up front are, basically identifying a team that's going to help work you through all aspects of the care. Fortunately, I'm only one person and one part of that team. There's a huge group of people, the neuro-oncologists, the neurologists, the social workers, obviously the nurses and nurse practitioners. So there's a huge group, and everybody kind of has their role and function at various points in time. But kind of when I first meet a family, beyond just making sure they understand what's going on, especially if it's the first time they're hearing about something, it's really important to me to make sure that the parents know that in no way, shape, or form is this their fault. Because as parents, we feel like our job is to protect our kids. And, this isn't something that anybody could have foreseen or prevented. And so that sort of like human layer of support to me is super important. And then just making sure that we're doing everything we can to kind of expedite understanding what the diagnosis is and what we need to do to treat. So I don't know if that answered your question, but there's a lot at the beginning.
Katie and I did not, we met on those circumstances, which no parent wants to hear that their child is diagnosed with. But, we were told from the beginning that we had the best of the best, and we did. Katie was phenomenal with our family, with Nick. She explained everything. And, I think the one thing that I always cherished about her was she always said that she would treat him like her own. And I truly believe she did. She did everything she could. She even gave us extra time with Nick, which, at the time was risky surgery, as I'm sure Katie can confirm that he had. And so I think your question with, we had a lot of support in the hospital. So many people, just the nurses alone were amazing and always there for us, answer any questions. So it is definitely the worst time of your life, but they are there to do everything they can and make you feel comfortable. They're essentially going into your child's brain. And I can't say enough good things about the team.
Katie might get this question all the time, but for the parents listening, when we're faced with a situation like this and we say we want the best for our children, I think those of us in the New England area know, well, we go to Boston, right? We go to Boston, we go to the hospitals, up there. But for folks who are listening to this in random parts of the country, parts of the world, Katie, I don't know, do you have any way for somebody to think how they might know that they are in good care? Like, I don't know if that makes sense. Like, how do they know? How can a parent know, like, they're in good hands with a hospital, with a surgeon, with a team? Because I think for those of us in this area, we just know, oh, we're just right. Boston's right in our backyard. It's right there. Like, we know we have access to it.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think about this a lot actually because like you said, I mean, we're in an area where it's a good hospital, and not just one good hospital, but many good hospitals, and also in an area where a lot of people are very medically savvy and kind of know somebody who knows somebody and know the right questions to ask. There are a lot of families also in this area who are not medically savvy and equally as trusting of their child's care. But I think if you were to take a step back, definitely for something where it's an emergency situation, just you don't necessarily have the opportunity to kind of sift through where is the best possible place for XYZ. But once somebody is stable, and there is an opportunity to sort of think about what is the right place for my child, I guess one thing is just like the volume that a center sees of not just your specific condition, but, for example, at Boston Children's, brain tumors, we see hundreds a year here. And just that volume gives not just the surgeons the experience, but also ensures that everybody on the team has dealt with even the rarest of diseases on multiple occasions and with some frequency. So that volume is super critical. And then also being somewhere where there's access to sort of like the more innovative things, whether that be with respect to the cancer treatment or surgical treatment, but academic center. So like high volume academic center. And not every hospital is the same, but most places I think do have the ability to at least connect you with the right teams and to offer you second opinions and referrals. And the other thing that families should know is that you can always ask for, other opinions. You can always do that. You can do that remotely. We do that. Other places do that. But it's a pretty common thing as well to, even if your kid's at like the best possible place, having 2 or 3 other really good places also take a look at the pathology, at the imaging, and to give you what they would do in their experience. That also can help families feel at least they're doing the right thing and that they've explored all options. So I often tell families that I see, especially if they have the luxury of time to do so, it never hurts to get another opinion.
Is that offensive to you when people say they're going to get a second opinion? Is there a professional approach that you recommend? Because I think some people might be afraid, be like, oh my, Katie's got all this experience. I don't want to just say, hey, I need a second opinion. But is there a professional approach to that?
Yeah, no, it can be kind of delicate, I guess, if you think about it from not wanting to hurt people's feelings. But frankly, it's your child and, no one's really worried about that. And I personally would never take offense to it because I have kids. I would want the best for my children. And I would hope that my families would not put my feelings before what they think is best for their child. But I'm often on the other side of that where I'm getting second opinions. People will often, come here for second opinions. And so I guess it's a pretty small field. And so as a professional courtesy, we'll usually reach out to the person that, had seen the child first, just to make sure that the local team is kind of aware of what's going on and assure the family that has happened so that any of that sort of like uncomfortable feeling is kind of taken away. Because the last thing you want a family who's going through, this type of gut-wrenching experience to be feeling is in anything, guilt or shame or feeling like they have to like manage somebody else's feelings. Like that should not at all be on the radar. So I think it's more of physician side, like we'll take care of that. We'll talk to each other. We'll it's a very common thing. Like don't in any way feel badly about it. It's really common. I mean, getting second, third opinions, it's super, super common. It's not at all offensive. People should not feel bad about asking.
I think I can answer too, being on the other side as the parent. Even though we knew we had, the best team, we did get a second opinion. And I think it was just so at the end of the day, we could say, we did everything we possibly could. The good thing is because it's such a small world, the whole brain tumor world, is that all of these doctors all know each other and work together, and, they have their calls and discuss each patient. So most of the doctors that we had reached out to, which were in other states, they already knew of Nick and his story. I forget what you call it, Katie, the brain tumor board, or when the board meets together, and, the oncologist would be on there. And so I think it's great that they do all work together. But as a parent, you, of course, want to say, we reached out to everyone and did everything that you could. And I don't think, I would never, we obviously didn't do it to be offensive or anything like that. But on the other side, yeah, you do want to do everything you can.
Yeah, no, I think it's good.
I'm wondering if you can just frame, like, air quotes, how small this world is, because I think a lot of us, maybe folks who haven't, followed Nick's story or the stuff that we do at the foundation, how small of a space is this when you say it's that tight knit where you might know other surgeons and stuff like that? Is there a way to frame that for the real basic listener that doesn't know this space?
Yeah, I wish I had the exact number of how many pediatric neurosurgeons in the country there were, but it's only a few hundred. And of those, not everybody is specialized in brain tumors. Like a lot of centers that maybe aren't as high volume or maybe have, fewer faculty on staff, everybody kind of does a little bit of everything. So there's really probably only 3 or 4 places in the country where people are specialized enough that their sole practice is pediatric brain tumors with respect to the surgeon side. So there's really like a handful of people that I pretty actively communicate with that, will kind of, share opinions with each other. But in the world of academic pediatric neurosurgery, like, there are meetings that everybody sees each other at. There's, everybody, I can ask any one of my partners, oh, do you have so-and-so's cell phone number? I just need to give them a quick ring. I just saw this patient. So it's small enough for that to be the case. And then if you really then start to hone down on, like sort of like the different specific tumors, then not even just, the number of neurosurgeons obviously is very like small in general, but then the oncologists that have made it their life to focus on this gets even smaller. And so for something like Nick with, germ cell tumors, there are truly like 3 or 4 experts in the world that everybody knows, that everybody would contact. And so it's truly a very small community.
I guess what kind of got me into the whole marathon is, obviously running for Nick and raising money for Boston Children's Hospital. And so I think one of the things that we were just talking about, Matt and I, about the listeners, is how important the fundraising is.
I think it's so important for so many reasons. The specifically the fundraising part, is that what you wanted? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously right now with the way that funding has changed and the way that, some of the national funding sources are less, more so than ever, it's really important for philanthropic causes to start to support a lot of the diseases that we've taken for granted with being funded. But specifically with pediatric tumors, pediatric brain tumors, some of the specific tumors that we take care of are rare enough that the research has not moved as fast as it has for some of the other diseases. So the need for funding and support for that is massive. And the fundraising support from the marathon and from some of the stuff that Boston Children's does, some of it goes directly to research, but there are a lot of things beyond research that funding can support that all kind of goes to your initial question of like, how do we support families going through a pretty significant time in their own lives? Yeah, there's innumerable ways that we can help kids and families. Research is certainly the most major that we think of as pushing forward how we can actually move the needle on some of the ways that we treat. But there's so many different things that the marathon funding supports.
So what made you run the marathon?
I feel like being on this podcast, I can't it's hard to say, but honestly, like Nick, my experience with Nick, he is one of, a few patients that I've taken care of that have just really stuck with me. I love all of my patients and families. Like, it's not just you that I told that I would take care of your kid like they are my own. I mean, that's what I tell all of my families because that's really how I feel. I feel like I'm an extension of the parent for this child for at least that period of time. And I better take care of them the way a mom or dad would. But some of the patients that I've lost, I can't ever feel what you guys feel, that feeling of I wish that there was something more that I could have done. Being a surgeon, I can only do what my hands can do. It just feels so limited and it's just not enough. So just wanting to be able to do more to contribute to something greater than what I can do on my own, that's incredibly important to me. So that was a big part of it. Also, kind of I'm surrounded by the extremes of emotion in my career, extreme, sometimes sadness, but sometimes happiness. But a lot of it is really, you're empathic to what's going on, and having such a kind of a high stress job, and taking care of these kids and families. Running has always been an outlet for me, because I think otherwise I would really, I don't know what I would do. You just have so much that you can't really share with people. Like people can't really, I really can't share it. Like they're rules, I can't talk about it. But, it just kind of running kind of helps me sort of like process some of it and think about it, and also get sort of inspiration for like, what I want to do. Like I think about different ways that I want to study things, and um, kind of how I can do something better for the next patient. So running is a little bit of like a therapy for me, to do that in a group, which was all sort of focused kind of on that same effort, was really important. And yeah, just feeling like these kids do such hard things and these families do such hard things, and I can do this hard thing too. Like I can do this. But yeah, I think running the marathon was one of the most, yeah, it was one of the most special experiences. And then not just the day of, but like the training and, being able to like run with you. Like that was
Mhm.
awesome. That was like
Yeah.
just such an amazing thing to get to do. Yeah, to get to have that kind of a relationship with you.
I agree, because I think we always had that, like this on the camera in the beginning. Obviously, they were not fun conversations.
Yeah.
So I think to get to know each other on a different level was great. And it was fun.
Yeah.
Some of it was fun.
Yeah.
Some of the training was not so fun.
Every time someone says it's fun, I see Jen laugh, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
no, it doesn't sound like everything was fun about that.
I think it's the group, though, that we run with, and everyone has their story, and it gives you a purpose, and you kind of remember why you're doing this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Would you do it again?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And enough time has passed now that I kind of like, it's like childbirth, you're like, oh, just the good parts. You just remember the good parts.
So
Right?
I said that after the first one, but now I remember a lot after the second one. So
Yeah.
to be determined. We'll see. I actually have two more questions. One is, I feel like you've kind of answered this, but the most rewarding part of your job.
Yeah, that's a great question. I truly love my job. I know I just said that I need to run excessively to like deal with the, the emotional aspects of it, but I truly love my job. I love like even being like a part of a child's life or just even like a little bit. It's pretty amazing sometimes to see someone that, I operated on like, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and just kind of seeing where they are in life. And I don't know, I feel like it's kind of what it must feel like to be like a great aunt or something that kind of pops in every once in a while and like kind of just sees the progress. So that's pretty amazing. But I think, yeah, I think just having these families trust me to take care of their child. It's not lost on me. Every so often I'll think about like, as I'm, going into the operating room with like a baby or, whatever, young child, and these parents that just like handed their child to me with all the trust in the world to take care of them. Like that's so incredible. Like that's such a, it's such a privilege. Obviously a huge responsibility. It's just so, I'm just so grateful that that I am able to do that and to take care of those kids and to give them back to their parents and um to be able to be some sort of like a source of calm and to provide some sort of healing for them. But yeah, just making even like a small difference in someone's world, I think is just, yeah, it's really meaningful.
And my other one is, what was your favorite memory of Nick?
My favorite memory of Nick?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Nick was so funny. He was always like, just like really kind of like happy to see me. He had a couple different surgeries, well, 3 different surgeries. And the first one, when I would go in and he was just like, hi, like, hey, like no big deal. Hey. But yeah, he was always just like yeah, it was like no big deal. Like I was seeing him in the operating room. He was going through like whatever, major issue at the time. I'd be seeing him post-operatively or seeing him with Jimmy Fund. And it would be like I just like saw him like at a ice cream shop or something. Just like nothing seemed to fluster him at all. And, I still remember the last time that I got to see Nick and the last thing he said to me was, "Thank you." And that was just so Nick, just not at all putting himself before anyone else, just still thinking about, yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Katie. Thanks for your time today. Jen, anything else before we wrap?
No, but thank you for doing this. See, it wasn't too bad, right?
No, it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, no, it was
that's
great.
Fine. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Right. Thanks so much, Katie.
Okay,
thank you,
great.
Katie.
Bye, guys.
All right, Jen, second episode done. First time that I've interviewed a brain surgeon. I was a little bit lost what to ask, but hopefully folks listening got some value out of that. Katie's pretty good, so it seems.
Pretty amazing. Yeah.
And tons of knowledge there, obviously. It is crazy how, like, just these last few episodes, and of course being involved with the foundation, like how small this corner of the profession is. I'm trying to drill down these last few episodes, like when you and Tim were going through this stuff and having to research it, did you just have like, how did you even begin to research this stuff? Like the words that she says to you, like how do you disseminate that and try to like wrap your head around it?
Yeah. I think the one thing that's really hard is they tell you not to Google a lot of stuff because you don't have a lot of answers right away. The first word you hear is brain tumor. That can lead to so many different things. Of course, any parent's going to Google it. And, at first you really don't know what you're looking up until your pathology comes in. And it is a very small world. However, once you're in it, it's kind of like, wow, it's almost like every time you turn around, you're hearing of a different kid being diagnosed with a brain tumor. And, unfortunately with Nick's, we didn't have a lot of people to turn to. There's like not a lot of kids that have this. It's less than 4%. You're kind of grasping at straws trying to find something. And that part was really hard. And, we did end up finding like just that one mom on a Facebook page. And, she was going through a similar experience and she had given us the name of a doctor. And that's kind of who led us to Dr. Lau, who is doing the research for germ cell tumors. But again, it's just a small world. And unfortunately, there's not a ton out there on it.
Well, it seems like, once again, that the research and the efforts that the foundation is doing and other foundations, other folks who give charitably, at least so far, these interviews have reaffirmed that, the work that you and Tim are dedicating to is making a difference, right, for a lot of folks out there. So that is one positive, outcome from a lot of the stuff. And if folks want to learn more about how they can support the Nick Strong Foundation, you can go to nickstrongfoundation.com. You can learn more about that. Of course, you can subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening to this podcast, and you can join our newsletter, nickstrongfoundation.com/subscribe, where Jen writes a seasonal newsletter to let you know what we're up to, tournaments, events, other happenings, other fundraising events that Jen and team are at. So check that out. Again, nickstrongfoundation.com. Thanks for listening, everybody.